Hey everybody, welcome to Dad's Den of Pop Culture and a TV review video a couple years in the making. I've watched about an episode a week of this show. I'm actually not quite finished. I think I have one episode left, but it was time to make a review because I really love this show. It is Peter Gunn from 1958, created by Blake Edwards. It ran until 1961 on NBC for its first two seasons. And then on its third season, it moved to ABC. In all, 114 really tight 30-minute episodes. Well, 20 plus minutes, but 30-minute time slot episodes. If Peter Gunn is remembered for anything, it's the style, the noir atmosphere, shadows, smoky clubs, waterfront alleys. But it should also be remembered for those tight, compact scripts. Mysteries in a half-hour time slot aren't necessarily that easy to do. There's not a lot of time for twists, but Gunn was blessed with really smart plotting, dialogue that kind of crackled without having to rush through it, and a jazz score that kept the pace perfectly. Now, how did they do it? Well, to be honest, I'm really still not sure. When I began watching the show for a few episodes, I had to keep checking to make sure it was just a 30-minute show because it felt like it was just moving at this really slow pace. The dialogue scenes were kind of laconic, but they wrapped up the mysteries with no trouble in that half-hour slot. I did notice, though, a couple things. They really don't do big scene transitions, so no scenes of the detective driving from one place to another, with that little, inside the head narration going. They only do the scenes they need to tell the story. And I think that allows them to sort of take their time while they're doing it. When it comes to style, Henry Mancini's theme takes first prize, a groundbreaking original West Coast jazz score. Gunn was one of the first TV shows with a full original score, apparently. The theme was a smash hit, Grammy Album of the Year winner. Cool to this day. Edwards credited the music for at least half the show's success. About the theme, Mancini once said, "The Peter Gunn title theme actually derives more from rock and roll than from jazz. I used guitar and piano in unison, one chord throughout, giving it a sinister effect." And combining style with substance, you really have to hand it to Craig Stevens as Peter Gunn. Laid-back virility, a sophisticated edge, more a smooth operator than a brute, but capable of dishing out punishment and taking it when it was called for. Stevens really made the character magnetic. Before Gunn, Stevens had appeared in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, in a very small part, Dive Bomber, The Deadly Mantis. Nothing that would necessarily make you think that he had this role in him. But Edwards had an eye for these sorts of things. Blake Edwards modeled Gunn on Cary Grant's debonair style, and even took Stevens to his tailor and gave him, a butch sort of haircut for that sharp look. Edwards said, "I wanted a fantasy kind of quality for that world, constructing our own kind of jazzy, dark environment." When we think about the dialogue, much of it comes down to Stevens' delivery as Gunn. Seemingly unemotional, though I think cool would really be the correct term for it. He somehow gets us through those scenes, doing mystery and crime without lots of talking is tough, but he gets us through them without ever, again, feeling rushed. And I think his delivery is a big part of that. Despite the cool delivery, he could bring in humor, anger, pathos, romance when it was called for, though never in an over-the-top way. With Stevens Gunn, it's always authentic, always very genuine, which brings us to the romance. Lola Albright as Edie Hart, a wry sense of humor, a beautiful voice, every bit as cool as Gunn, although sometimes a bit more emotional, especially when she loses his attention to a case. Between Gunn and Hart, we got a sensual, mature relationship based on total trust. Lola's Edie is glamorous and loyal, and Gunn's perfect match. The scenes feel sort of grown up, and they were one of my favorite parts of the whole show. Like, this is what you want in a relationship. A little teasing, a very deep caring, that kind of thing. Albright got her breakout part in the film noir Champion, opposite Kirk Douglas, and then did many supporting roles in small pictures. including a co-starring role with her husband, Jack Carson, in The Good Humor Man. In the early 50s, she frequently modeled for pinup artist Gil Elvgren. She did a ton of TV before and after Peter Gunn. Henry Mancini said about her singing, she was perfect casting for that role because she had an off-the-cuff kind of jazz delivery that was very hard to find, just enough to believe that she'd be singing in that club and that she shouldn't be on Broadway or doing movies. Peter Gunn really was blessed with a great supporting cast, though. Herschel Bernardi's Jacoby, the exasperated buddy with a dry sense of humor and a heart of iron. The pacing of those scenes between him and Gunn are amazing, just as between Gunn and Edie. You can really soak in those scenes. Bernardi was known for his Broadway roles, Tevye, in Fiddler on the Roof, Zorba and Bajor, many movies, several TV roles, and perhaps most importantly for my generation, he did the announcer voice in the famous How Many Licks commercial for Tootsie Pop. Mother was there for a little while, played by Hope Emerson initially, and then Minerva Urakal. She owns the lounge where Edie sings, serves as a kind of a substitute mother to Gunn and to Edie, pretty much to everybody who needs her support. Not overly demonstrative, of course, since that's not the way on Peter Gunn, but steady and reliable, the kind of support you need in a dangerous noir world. And I think that's something you get from a lot of these characters, is that I guess you could say the love between the characters is deep and very real, but it's not overly expressed. You know, it's sort of the love that is there without you having to constantly proclaim your love. Eccentric informants and side characters abound in Peter Gunn. Billy Barty as Babby, recurring in 8 episodes. A pool shark who needs a stool to shoot his game. He really stands out, but there are many others. You get Jackie Coogan, Shelley Berman, Gavin MacLeod, Diane Carroll, James Coburn, George Kennedy, Virginia Grape, J. Pat O'Malley, and of course, Tor Johnson. Gunn came along at a time when Hollywood was blessed with great character actors, both old pros and talented newcomers. One of those side characters, Bill Chadney, who played Emmett the pianist, who worked in the club, did especially well on Peter Gunn. He and Lola Albright fell in love and got married in real life. It really all comes down, though, to Blake Edwards' vision and talent. He created the show, wrote dozens of episodes, directed several. His stylish touch was the key. You can see something similar in the excellent Experiment in Terror from 1962, a movie I reviewed on this channel, but feel free to skip my review and just watch the movie. One of the best opening scenes in the history of film, by the way, in Experiment in Terror. Among other things, Edwards cut his teeth on the radio. He created Richard Diamond, Private Detective, which ran from 49 to 53 and starred Dick Powell as the lead. It later became a TV series starring David Janssen from 1957 to 1960, and before Janssen became like a legend in The Fugitive. Diamond was a solid, wisecracking detective show with a former cop turned detective. It's more straightforward and procedural than the later Peter Gunn. Gunn was shot in gorgeous black and white with cinematic noir flair, dramatic light and shadow by Philip Lathrop and William Spencer, unusual angles, and a very moody atmosphere that made every frame just a masterclass in staging. The show got 8 Primetime Emmy nominations in the first season alone. No wins, but it's really just an honor to be nominated, isn't it? Best Dramatic Series, Stevens for lead actor, Bernardi for supporting actor, both Albright and Emerson for supporting actresses, Mancini for music, and Edwards for writing and direction. It's bizarre that it didn't walk away with at least 1 Emmy. Regarding the show, Edwards said, "I just did the best I could, had the most fun with it that I could have," and I think it really shows. Picking favorite episodes is tough. There are a few that I didn't love, but all of them I liked. The first episode, The Kill, hooked me immediately. Love at first sight. The Ugly Frame, episode 24, is a goodie for Bernardi. He's a really fine actor. And Vendetta, episode 36, really took me by surprise, showed the risks they were willing to take with the series. Peter Gunn had a huge influence on detective shows, music, really the whole culture of cool. It was apparently the first detective series created specifically for TV, and still holds up with its sharp style, with the no-filler storytelling. It spawned a slew of imitators in the 50s and 60s, but probably wouldn't be matched for about 30 years until Miami Vice showed up. Like Gunn, it merged music, mood, and story perfectly. jazzy pop and electronic music in the place of cool jazz. Miami Vice's soundtrack album was apparently the first TV album to hit #1 since the music from Peter Gunn. Folks, give it a shot if you've never watched it, or if you have, maybe it's time to slide back in and watch it again. If it was nothing but a vibe or a feeling, it might be worth a dip. But the show really has more than that. It's well worth a complete rewatch. Let me know what you think in the comments of Peter Gunn, of the style, of the substance, of the actors, Blake Edwards. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Oh, and of course, about the music. If you enjoyed this little review, please give it a like, maybe subscribe, maybe share with a friend. That would be very cool. But until next time, God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another. Have a little bit of fun out there. Watch some Peter Gunn, and I will see you again, hopefully soon, in Dad's Den of Pop Culture.